Don't forget, tomorrow Friday is a One Beer Friday. Woo! It'll be one of the rare times we're in studio for a One Beer Friday, because it seems like we've been busy a lot on Fridays recently. I know here in a couple weeks we'll be back at the Doghouse, and then a week after that, we're going to go back to our friends at the best concession stand in the Midwest.
In America.
Omaha Ron Collie for was this our fourth year?
Fourth year in a row.
That's incredible.
The Scott Frost era has included trips to Ron Collie.
It all started with a stupid quip on the draft. R.I.P.
We need to look back at the records, because I remember the first time we were there, Nebraska played Michigan in Scott Frost's first season.
Oh, that's right. They got destroyed.
I don't remember what's happened over the last two seasons, but I do remember that. It wasn't very good. This is not good.
I'll look back. I'll try to remember to look back on that and see if we can change the mojo off of that. So, yes, One Beer Friday tomorrow. It does include, of course, Kent's Movie Club. Cry Macho is the movie.
Have you watched it yet?
I watched it last night.
And?
Oh, you'll have to wait till Friday.
Ooh, ominous. The look on John's face, ominous.
Wait till Friday.
Does he ever cry?
Spoiler alert.
It's hard to tell. His voice is so weak because he's 90 years old.
He's a very old man now.
His voice is so weak, it's sometimes hard to tell.
What is it, an hour 40? Hour 45?
Yeah, it's only an hour 40.
All right, good.
It's a very simple story.
Okay.
Betty White's voice isn't weak. How come he can't be Betty White?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's probably all of those years saying, "Do you feel lucky, punk?"
Yeah, the way he talks.
Get off my turn, Clyde. I'm gonna try to come up with my top 5 Eastwood movies.
Okay.
There's a lot of them. I love Eastwood. He's one of my favorite actors. But anyway, that's Movie Club.
That's tomorrow.
We were talking earlier about Nebraska and the special teams woes.
Yeah.
But another thing that Nebraska struggled with, and we touched on it yesterday when you came up with those stats, on the defense about red zone efficiency, both offense and defense, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I went back and looked at, of course, the Frost era here, and then also went into the 2 years of Frost at Central Florida. Mm-hmm. And just to compare, where Nebraska has been in terms of their red zone scoring and their red zone touchdown scoring. And it's not surprisingly for a team that's been under 500 for all but one of the years that I looked at, because I also looked at Nebraska 16 and 17. As well as Central Florida 16 and 17. But, for a program that's had, of those seasons, only one winning season, it's not terribly surprising that Nebraska's red zone scoring percentages have been in the lower half, and in some cases the lower fourth of college football. This year, it's down from where it was last year. Last year, Nebraska's scoring percentage in the red zone was a respectable 43rd. They scored on almost 86% of their red zone trips. Now, the touchdown percentage was where it really took the dive. And that's why Connor Culp was Big Ten Kicker of the Year.
Sure, he had opportunities.
He was automatic inside of 40 yards. And Nebraska had a lot of trips inside the 20, thus he had a lot of 40-yard and less field goals. But Nebraska last year was just 107th in the country in red zone touchdown percentage. But you know what the scary thing is, Josh? Nebraska has been in the 100s or worse 3 times in the last 5 seasons, and I'm counting this year as well.
Yeah.
3 times in the last 5 seasons, Nebraska's been in the 100s out of 130 FBS programs in red zone touchdown scoring. And that was something they really wanted to focus on this year, was getting better red zone scoring in the red zone touchdown scoring. And the percentage is improved. It's almost up 12 points from where it was last year. In 19 and 20, Nebraska was hovering around 51, 52% red zone touchdown. This year, it's up to 63rd. So it is better. The problem is, though, because the field goals have gone south, the overall scoring percentage in the red zone has dipped from almost 86% to less than 79%.
Yeah, and we talked about it earlier when we were going through the special teams issues and all of these one-score games, and how they've been living on such a razor's edge in so many of these matchups. Well, if you're expecting more of that moving forward, starting with Saturday night, this is where the game is going to be won and lost. It's going to be with these special teams miscues, and you just said it. It's one thing to at least get a field goal. Hey, that might be 4 fewer points than you were expecting. It's another to get 0 when you make these trips inside the red zone, either because you miss field goals. And the thing that I wonder about too, John, now moving forward, is just the lack of trust overall in the field goal kickers and what they decide to do. Parker Gabriel had a great story today on HuskerExtra.com about the red zone struggles. One of the stats that I've seen more local folks mention over the last few weeks this season so far, John, compared to last year's or previous seasons rather, is yards of offense per touchdowns. And Parker had this stat. Nebraska's only scoring 1 touchdown for every 120.3 yards of offense so far this season, 103rd best in the country. And so to me, what that says is that's basically every 2 drives. If you I would guess, 75 yards is how far you need to go to score a touchdown on an average drive, with field position punts or even kickoffs and whatnot. 120 yards, that's darn near every 2 drives that they are finally scoring a touchdown. And he pointed out against Buffalo and Oklahoma, the most recent 2 games that they played, Huskers generated 13 trips to the opponent's 35 or deeper, but they only scored 7 times. 6 of those being touchdowns, but they only scored 7 out of 13 times. And this is one of those spots. You're looking at Saturday night, a game that, under a touchdown is Michigan State as a favorite. Being able to finish these drives. I remember that first year in 2018. They were awesome in total offense the longer that season went along, and I'm looking at the final numbers. 25th that year in total yards. They were 26th in red zone scoring percentage, but they were 67th in finishing drives with touchdowns. So it's interesting how this has been a continual problem, and we all kind of have our theories. I know Sam McEwen, he wrote about it in his Rewind on Sunday. It just, when you compress the field down to a red zone situation, there are, in theory, fewer plays, even though you're closer, and so you should be feeling better, or at least there are fewer plays that you can do just because the math of the field length, it's just not there like it normally would be.
The thing about Frost was at Central Florida, he was pretty good. His teams were, top 40 in terms of red zone touchdowns, 39th in 16 and 21st in the national championship year of 17. And I wonder,
that even is a surprise, though. That was the best offense in the country.
Right, but they had a lot of big plays.
That's true.
So that's true. That definitely helped. I wonder how much, and I would have to go back, and I didn't get a chance to really dive super duper deep into the numbers. But I have to wonder if this is where Adrian Martinez can really make his mark, and not necessarily throwing, but running the ball.
Agreed.
Because he is, as I think we all can acknowledge now definitively, he is the best guy on the field with the ball in his hands. He makes things happen. He's been their best natural runner in terms just overall of elusiveness, toughness, speed, all of it. Mm-hmm. He's been their best guy with the ball in his hands. And so you wonder if maybe this is really where Nebraska can go to, Adrian more inside of the 20-yard line. Now, one thing that these numbers and what you hope will reflect as the season goes longer, provided now that they stay healthy, you now got both your tight ends.
Yes.
And this is where the tight ends in the NFL make their money. This is why Rob Gronkowski is one of the greatest players of all time, much less greatest tight end of all time, is because inside the red zone he is money and still is even today at his advanced stage in his career. So with Allen and Vokalek now both back,
folks,
this is really where Nebraska needs to shine. This is where they're going to make up some of the difference. This is where they can atone for whatever disasters are about to happen to them in special teams or have happened to them in special teams. Because we're at the point now where if you're Nebraska, you're just hoping that special teams plays neutral. Not good, just neutral. Because of that, you're going to have to make up for it somewhere else, whether it's in defensive takeaways, getting negative plays from the other team because of Nebraska's defense, or it's going to happen because Nebraska's hitting on a higher percentage in the red zone. They're getting 6s instead of 3s. And so you can, if all other things stay equal, if the pass rush continues to be meh, if special teams continues to be a dumpster fire, One way Nebraska could help its cause is to improve their percentage in the red zone. If they do that, they may, I'm emphasizing, may be able to make up the difference in what we anticipate is probably going to be a lot of one-score games over the last 8.
Well, I mean, really what we're talking about is as you run through the stats, and, like the question that I asked yesterday was 90th in third down defense, 93rd in yards per carry allowed, 95th in sacks, 88th in red zone scoring defense, and what we were just talking about with the offense. One of those is going to have to improve, and I would say, John, like a market improvement. And I don't know what that means. Does it mean jumping up into the top 50? Does it mean jumping up into the top 40, into the top 30? I don't know. But one of those, if not two, is going to have to improve when you just consider the strength of schedule that they have moving forward, these teams that they're going to play, where some of these games fall, and really also where they fall on the schedule overall. I just don't think that they can survive, and be right now they're a 500 team. I don't think that these stats can continue to stay where they're at and then finish as a 500 team. If they're going to get to 6 wins, if they're going to get to 7 wins, which it seems pretty hard at this point in time, something is going to have to change. And look, I'm with you. I don't think the sacks are going to improve. We went over the special teams. I don't think that is going to improve. So if you just kick those two to the curb, what is something that they could control and actually do a better job? Like this one, offensive red zone proficiency, would seem to me to be one that they could fix because we've seen their offense move the ball. What is it? Is it about play calling in those moments? Is it about execution in those moments where the plays have been there and they just haven't been able to execute them? Is it about something as simple as what you just said, personnel? Add on to the tight ends a little bit more Xavier Betts, a little bit more Omar Manning. If they can rely on those guys down in the red zone, then you're cooking. And so I think that of all the things that have been kind of poor or outright bad, this would seem to be the one that would have the best chance to improve because the factors of improvement would seem to be more on things Nebraska can actually do.
I could see Manning maybe helping out in that cause. I don't see Betts as a receiver that, he's not the kind of guy you probably are going to go to a lot in the red zone, at least based on what we've seen so far. And admittedly, it's been a small sample size. But Manning could be one of those guys.
Yeah.
That, a bigger body guy who obviously we saw him make the great catch in the end zone last week, who could help make a difference. Another thing that would help too, and I know that Parker's story didn't focus on offense, but defense. Nebraska defensively is 104th right now in red zone touchdowns. They've allowed 75% of teams getting into the red zone to score a touchdown. That's only 104th in the country. Last year, Nebraska was 15th in the country. They made teams settle for a lot of field goals. They only gave up 51% of red zone trips as touchdowns.
Wow.
15th best in the country, but that number's now up to 75. Admittedly, small sample size, but that's the worst number Nebraska has had since 2016. Even Diaco's team in 17 had a better defensive touchdown red zone percentage. So,
yeah,
here's how you flip a game. Last week we were talking about the points messed up on kicks, 2 missed field goals, 2-point conversion. It was a 9-point difference. Well, you know what? It's an 8-point difference. Getting 7s instead of 3s going one way, and giving up 3s instead of 7s the other way. There's an 8-point difference.
An 8-point swing right there.
One more drive that you stop in the red zone, one more drive that you convert in the red zone for a touchdown. 8-point swing.
Yeah, it's easy to say that this could be amongst our keys tomorrow, looking ahead to the Nebraska-Michigan State game.
Coming up, we still have Bet of the Day. We were all winners yesterday.
Winners! Let's go!
In our Elite Sportsbook Bet of the Day. Yes, even Nick managed to get a win.
Thank you, the Rockies.
Thank you, the Rockies.
Thank you, the Rockies. And next, we have What You Say, including a week before the big matchup. Some trash talk already happening between a member of Tom Brady's inner circle towards Bill Belichick.
Oh, I'm intrigued.
Coming up in What You Say on 1620 The Zone.